Today we have a mother who pushed her daughter-in-law and it got upgraded to a stabbing. Let's find out the real story, so let's get cracking. The epic story of how I was accused of first pushing my entitled daughter-in-law and how she told others that I attempted to stab her. This is a rather sad, long, and painful story that has caused lasting consequences for myself and my children. I tried to help people who needed it because I was once in a similar situation. I never expected to be treated with such disrespect. The disrespect was only the first sign of problems that were waiting to erupt, and when everything came to a head, the fallout was awful. A bit of backstory about the situation. My youngest stepson had apparently gotten a woman who he had just met pregnant. Oh boy, do I have my doubts. When she was 7 months along, they got married and moved in with her mother. Entitled mother then had the baby, a boy. Some went down. Daughter-in-law's mother lost her job as a corrections officer because she was involved with an inmate. The mother kicked her daughter, my stepson, and newborn out of the home. They were homeless. They decided to move to her dad's house in Arizona. Well, he lived in a 3-bedroom, double-wide mobile with 3 families already and a lot of children. After moving in, my stepson was informed that he wasn't allowed to eat the family's food unless he worked for it. Often working in 100+ degree weather all day, 8 to 12 hours, and still only managing 1 meal per day and a small snack. Needless to say, this arrangement wasn't working out. My significant other drove 13 hours to get them and drove them the 13 hours straight back to move them up to our house to ensure their safety and the safety of my step-grandson. I fully understand that this is an epic amount of backstory, but I need to paint a picture of everything we did for my daughter-in-law and why her entitled behavior and actions had such devastating effects. The cast. You have me, the innocent one. Not really, I'm being sarcastic. My daughter is T, my son is C. My significant other is significant other. My stepson is entitled dad, and my stepdaughter-in-law will be entitled mother. It wasn't more than a week after they moved in that small issues would be brought up here and there. I would do my very best to fix whatever problems that were mentioned. I and my significant other started to pick up on some strange habits she had as well. Things that made little sense, such as always talking to her family members while on speaker and blatantly lying to them about things that were not important. For instance, her mother asked, "Entitled mother, how's your diet going after the baby?" And she answered, "Ooh, I'm doing so well. I've even stopped drinking sodas." At the moment, she popped open a soda. I just looked at my significant other in disbelief. My household has been one to always have open conversation. If my children have a question, I will answer it to the best of my abilities. No real limits on types of questions. I don't believe it is right to hide things from your children, nor be embarrassed to talk to them about certain things. My only real rule is that they not ask these things in front of company. One day, my son was asking me questions pertaining to demons and demons in art. Well, entitled mother didn't like this one bit and had a discussion with entitled dad. Next thing I know, I'm being told what is appropriate for me to talk about in my own home. That entitled mother is afraid that if I'm going to talk about spirits, demons, or God in front of her baby, it is going to negatively affect him or even hurt him in some way. Also, since she is Christian, my talking about demons offends her beliefs. First, the baby was 3 months old. Next, when you first arrived, you said you were an atheist, until you heard that entitled dad's mother was a Christian. I was then lectured on what she felt was more appropriate to say, and what words I'm not allowed to say, and so on. The next day, my daughter accidentally opened my bedroom door too hard, and entitled mother flew into a rage and started screaming about how it is impossible for us to ever be quiet. That all she wants is for her baby to be able to sleep through the night. But no, we're just trying to ruin it for her. I was in tears at this point. I spent hours cutting up socks and patting every door so that when opened or closed, they would be far more quiet. A week goes by, and you can cut the tension in the air. It was that bad. I was in my room resting when I hear entitled mother telling my daughter how important being active is, that lazy people are those that tend to get fat, how it is necessary to exercise properly and take care of her body or she was going to get fat. My daughter was 13 years old at the time and underweight. I was very angry. Before I could say anything, my son came to the rescue, and without missing a beat, he looked at entitled mother and said, "Ooh, you mean like you." Best brother ever. Entitled mom's face dropped and she stormed away. Of course, I had my son write an apology letter, but I was still proud of his wit in that moment. About a month later, entitled mom, entitled dad, and baby had gone shopping in a town over. They asked us to hold dinner until they returned from shopping, so we did. 8:30 p.m. on a school night, they finally get back. I realized last second I forgot to heat up entitled mom's beans. She goes to the stove. I say, "No, I got it. Go take a break. I don't plan on eating tacos anyway." I reach past her to get the can opener from the top drawer. She stomps her feet and leaves in a huff. I tell my significant other to go and apologize for me because I thought I may have hurt her feelings somehow. Another reason I offered to go ahead and cook for her was the fact that the baby was still in his carrier and crying. I didn't know how long he was in it, but I was just attempting to be helpful and allow entitled mother time to get ready for dinner with the baby. Big mistake. My significant other said that she could just get over it. I knew that wasn't going to happen, but I wasn't prepared for the storm that followed. The next day, entitled mom had entitled dad confront his dad asking why in the I pushed entitled mom in the kitchen and his dad did nothing about it. I was in my room when I heard entitled dad say this. I was also immediately hurt by this. I had been his stepmother since he was 7 years old and had never laid a hand on him, yet he would believe after everything I've done for him and his ungrateful wife that I would lay a hand on her. It felt like having my heart ripped out. I snapped the moment entitled mother opened her mouth and tried to describe exactly how it happened, and I finally had enough and gave her an earful of exactly what I thought of her. They left my house that day. 1 week later, they came to get their belongings. I didn't want to see them at all, so I stayed in my room. My son and daughter were in school, leaving only my significant other to watch over them, and this was a very big mistake. Entitled mother actually stole as much food as she could get away with from my children. She always had a bad habit of taking other people's belongings. These were usually small items, hair clip, a t-shirt, etc. My children had to suffer the most from this whole situation, then go nearly a month without certain foods because entitled mother and their brother stole from them. She stole more items, destroyed things, some of which were not replaceable. But one of the worst things that happened to me was her lies actually started to make their way into where I worked. It had been a good 3 months maybe since they had moved out. I can't say life is all good. I had been fighting a mystery illness for a few years that was also taking a very serious toll on my health and my ability to work, but not having the extreme stress of entitled mother around was refreshing without a doubt. I start working with a new patient, getting her ready, asking her questions and so on. As we were talking, she mentioned that she just moved here to escape a violent past. She stops talking about herself and says that she really feels bad for her neighbor who has had it really bad since she has moved here. Then the patient proceeds to tell me that her neighbor is this really nice husband and wife who have one child. They had been living with their in-laws until the mother-in-law went crazy, pushed the wife down, and tried to pull a knife out of a drawer in the kitchen to stab her with, when the mother-in-law didn't want her in the kitchen or to touch her things. So now the wife is terrified for the safety of herself and her baby. First, I didn't know I was that, and more importantly, I've never kept knives in the drawers in the kitchen. But anything for sympathy, I guess. It has been a couple of years, and I refuse to talk to her at all. She continues to do terrible things and has singled out my daughter as her next target. My stepdaughter-in-law is the most narcissistic, entitled parent and person I have ever known, and her behavior is horrible. To believe it is appropriate to control how someone can speak in their own home that they own is downright the definition of entitlement. Too long didn't read? Entitled mother, who is also my stepdaughter-in-law, is given a place to live and much more, becomes controlling and abusive, lies to her husband that I pushed her, proceeds to tell others that I actually attempted to stab her as well. Have you known people who lie for no reason? That's a sign of child abuse, having to lie to survive. The entitled mom definitely had some mental issues, and it's unfortunate that she didn't get the help that she needed. I also feel bad for OP having to endure all of this, especially since she wanted to help the entitled parents so much. No good deed goes unpunished, I suppose. Tell me what you think about this in the comments below. If you're hearing this, please leave a like, and if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell to be first. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.